Hello and welcome to Kelly and Wrighty, and what a way to head into the second international break of the season where things are sort of settling down a bit now, aren't they?
It is, Kel. Starting to see the runners and riders. It's happening.
It is happening,
yep.
But it wasn't a comfortable afternoon at the Etihad for Pep Guardiola on Saturday. Marco Silva's Fulham gave the champions a real scare.
Spurs seem to be in total control. 2-0 up against Brighton. But what happened? Final score, Brighton 3, Tottenham 2.
We'll chat all about the 8-goal thriller in West London as well as Brentford piled further misery onto bottom-place Wolves. Okay, well, Liverpool are the ones who lead the way at the moment. There's only a point in it between Liverpool, City and Arsenal. And they've had a relatively gentle start to the season in terms of their opponents. They haven't had one of the big boys yet, unless you count Manchester United, which I'm not sure.
Kelly's just trying to talk them down, isn't he?
No, it's not just... What I'm saying is it's actually, for a new manager coming in, and with the expectations of previous seasons coming in, it maybe feels like this has been a really good set of fixtures to try and adapt to what Arne Slot wants from the team.
But the thing is, Kels, it's fantastic. He can't choose the fixtures he gets, but for him to come in to a club like Liverpool with Klopp leaving, you know, ideally, if you could get fixtures, then you'd want these ones. But you can imagine, Kels, it's been brilliant what he's done. What is it, 8 out of 9 he's won? So it's magnificent for him to start like that. But you can imagine if it doesn't start like that for him, where the pressure's coming from. And what I like from him is that he's playing it down because he doesn't want to be remembered for the best start to a Liverpool manager's career, I should say, because he knows what's to come. And this is what I really like about him. He knows what's to come. He's got players in his team that know how to tread the balls. So he's somebody that's kind of just continually just knock the next game off. That's when we should start judging Liverpool, when they do start getting... Because what happens when if they go on a run, they're still winning these games. People are going to have to start to believe. This is the thing,
you look at what they've got between now and the next international break for Liverpool. This is when opening conversations with him to become their new manager. So it's going to... sorry, not Manchester City. Got Arsenal sort of coming up in there. Chelsea, who may have drawn at the weekend.
I think there are also some question marks of whether or not they're generating enough chances, considering how much attacking geniuses they do have up front and all of that talent up front. Are they generating enough? But the question is exactly that. It's too early because they've had... I mean, Wolves would just die for this run-in, right? But it is an easy start to... But it builds confidence and then it allows these players to start finding their feet, and it's a gentle start. But you're right, we get to judge this in the next lot of games.
I think it's good, especially for someone like Gravenberch. In the way that he's adapted to that position, these games has given him the confidence, and he's now got the momentum where he's outstanding.
He keeps getting man of the match.
Outstanding performances, and what we're seeing is that obviously against maybe that calibre of opposition, his true abilities are coming out, but what he's doing to show us is fantastic. The way he can dribble out of trouble, he can pass out of trouble, he can stop, he can break up possession, and then he can progress the ball. You know, these kind of games will only give him confidence for the games to come. Yeah,
and those bigger games that are coming in, you know, as Mina said, it is a change of style under Arne Slot, and there is going to be this kind of, I don't know, more patience required in terms of watching this Liverpool team, because it's not chance after chance after chance. I wonder if that might be a more useful approach against the bigger teams, actually, if that approach might look a little bit stodgy at times against kind of teams that Liverpool are expected to blow away, but might actually be more fruitful against the...
Well, it sounds like they want more control under the new manager. I think controlling games rather than just, you know, heavy metal chasing after everything. When they get the ball, there's more control, you know, more sort of possession, keeping the ball and building through the thirds. But what I like about the manager as much as anything, Kelly, is his personality. You know, this time, well, whenever Klopp announced he was stepping down, it was like alarm bells was going off, and getting the best out of these players, because he's got world-class players, you know, and he hasn't changed too much. And again, go back to the game of the weekend, they should have been out of sight. I know we had that controversial sort of thing that Van Dijk got hold of Guehi that could have, you know, lost 2 points, but Jota had 2 or 3 chances. He should have been more clinical. So if you're going to be critical, they should have took more of their chances and put Crystal Palace to bed earlier.
You know, as well, Kels, is that I'm pleased for him the way it started, because if it doesn't start like it has gone for Arne Slot, especially with Virgil van Dijk's contract, what's going on with Trent Alexander. If you're starting to get into the situation where he's losing games and these things are happening with these great players coming to the last year of their contracts, you can imagine what the noise will be like. So it's really helped him as well, this kind of run.
Actually, if you're also working on the small weaknesses in certain players, you're giving that time in this run-up when it is easier fixtures, then you have more time to devote to your players to develop that. Then when it becomes harder, and then you can start seeing the development in Trent and how much better he is defensively, what other players are also developing under him. That's the difference between a great coach who can last in Liverpool or one that will leave soon.
So if we're saying that sort of title challenge is going to be between those three teams,
Yes,
and not necessarily starting to work out who's quite going to finish where, then there is, of course, Champions League positions up for grabs. So at the end of all of that, Liverpool still lead the way at the top of the table. They're a point ahead of both Manchester City and Arsenal. Draws for Chelsea and Aston Villa leave them 4th and 5th, and then Brighton's win against Spurs that we just saw helps them up into 6th place. Tottenham are just inside the top half of the table on goal difference, starting to take shape.
Yeah.
We know that the teams who've been in title contention over the past few seasons are up there already. But for City, it looked, I'm not going to say as strong as shaky, but they don't look 100% at the moment.
You wouldn't expect them to be, especially when you're missing some of the caliber of Rodri, and you look at his record, wins to games, and when he's playing and when he's not playing. So you're going to miss that. The problem that I have with it, and what I find very hard to believe with City, is how they haven't. When Fernandinho was there, and they brought Rodri in with a couple of like a season or a couple of seasons before, played himself in. I'm very surprised they didn't do that. I know the people saying he tried it with Phillips, didn't work out. But I'm very surprised that Man City and their caliber have gone to the level where they've got Rodri and nothing else coming, and nothing else in the pipeline to come now. What, they're going to buy someone in January? What are they going to do? You know, it just feels very surprising to me that they haven't covered, for me, their main position, especially when you look at his goals, his games and wins when he's playing in those games.
And they got the win. So, you know, they would argue that it was a couple of draws in the games beforehand for Manchester City. Do they look like a team who should have cover for a player like Rodri, not a player of the level necessarily of Rodri?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the result. If you didn't see the game, you think 3-2, it was close enough. But if you actually really go into the game in depth and look at the game, Kovacic, you say, scored 2 goals, you think, oh, he's a perfect replacement. But if you look at the chances and the goals that Fulham scored, you're thinking that shouldn't happen for a Man City team. They look so open, so vulnerable. I mean, Traore could have had a hat-trick alone at the weekend. He was absolutely brilliant. But again, that player, right, he's probably right, they miss. You're always going to miss a Rodri, of course you are, but now they've got Kovacic and a couple of other players trying to fill in positions. Rico Lewis, John Stones maybe can play in that position, but they're not the same player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you have that pace and the way that Fulham play right now, they're so direct, so counter-attacking. And when you don't have that player, that physicality, I mean, Rodri's so good, right? I mean, we always know that on the ball, this is Man City don't need anyone. They don't even need Rodri on the ball, because they were a lot more direct with Doku and introducing that. They had less control in midfield already when you compare that to the season in which they won the treble. But now, without Rodri, with this trying to find their feet and trying to find different players and insisting on perhaps Rico Lewis, which, you know, he's a great player, but in my head I'm thinking, should we have Stones in the middle? Should we have like a way, an alternative to just introduce that bit more physicality there?
I just feel that for that player, they can't afford to lose that player. And then you look at Fulham's side, we have to give Fulham a bit of credit.
So it isn't a player like Rodri, it's Rodri.
I think, you know, we're not seeing numbers like he's put up in respect of him playing and then winning. So when he's not about, they need to get somebody as close to that as they possibly can, and obviously it's going to be very difficult. But if someone's going to do it, then Pep will move the chairs around and hopefully it'll work for him. But Fulham themselves as well, though, you have to say, they ain't lost since August. You know, a team that's played very, very well. But when you looked at City, they just looked very, very open. And I know he's got pace, great pace in some of the chances, but not all of them was just pure pace.
No.
It was the way they went through them as well.
There was a shot, sorry, you mentioned Pep there, there was a shot after the game, Kelly, at the end of the game, and Pep was standing there, he came on the pitch and he was just looking like, I know they won the game, but there was no joy in them winning. He was looking more worried, he was looking concerned what just happened. Yes, it felt like they scraped the 3 points, they've got over the line, but there's lots of things to sort out there. I mean, you mentioned the midfield that they didn't place Rodri. The other person I mentioned to me before was Haaland. If something happened to him, last year they could fall back on Alvarez. He's gone out the building as well. So they don't look the force they have done in the last seasons. There's concerns from a City point of view.
It feels like there's a chink. I don't know what it is, you know, I was doing the show the other day and I was saying, you just feel that there's something's not quite in line, but you can see they could probably put it right.
And we also know that City traditionally finished the season incredibly
very strong,
strongly,
yeah.
so they can afford to have a little bit of a wobble. It's just what happens longer term.
Yeah.
They don't want to fall too far back when it just feels like it's going to be another incredibly close Premier League season. Having said all that about Manchester City, Fulham have got previous for performing well against teams who are towards the top of the table.
Emil Smith-Rowe now, Robinson's very good on that left side, activate that left side. I think Jimenez up front now, we're starting to see somewhere near what he was capable of doing before the head injury, and you're starting to see his move. I think his assist was probably the best assist of the season.
Yeah.
People will say that, but it's just like he just put it in there. He put it into an area that he believes someone should be, and someone was there. But like the way they played through City, with the way that they can play, and obviously Traore, you know, he should have scored actually to the point where Pep was speaking to him afterwards, telling him how to finish out, what you should do.
Yeah, they feel like they go under the radar every season, Fulham, even though there have been improvements and they are capable of pulling some really big results. They were so close to getting another one against Manchester City. They can pull these big results out the bag.
Yeah, and I think that's credit to Marco Silva and the way that he's created this team to be so direct and to also play off the fluidity and chemistry between certain players, like Jimenez, ones who played in different clubs before already had some sort of chemistry, like let's utilise that, Jimenez and Traore. And the midfield is really important because I think they're very good at winning back possession, at being direct, at quick passes going forward. And so it's exactly that. It's being able to weave your way through, to find that outball, to utilise the pace, to go on the wings. And I think that we've always seen, even when we had, you know, Rock and...
Look at the chances.
You've still got to play them again this season, by the way.
Yeah.
When you know, I thought he done well here again.
How would you feel, Wrighty, if a manager, like an opponent manager,
if an opposing manager comes up to me and he's explaining to me how I should be
losing as well?
This is what I'm saying, Shay.
What would you do?
If he's explaining to me how you should have finished against my team, I'm saying this man doesn't fear me at all. You know what I mean? This man doesn't fear me. I would not sleep properly. I mean, simply because you look at the chances, and we're talking about a player that we've all seen. Look, here it is, look. We're looking at a player that we've seen for many years.
Look at Traore's face.
I know, he's listening intently. He's listening intently. Well, listen to a player that has been at enough clubs now where at some stage you can see where he's come from. He's come from Barcelona, La Masia. He's got pedigree. But at some stage, he's got to sit himself down and say, listen, I need to do more. I've got so much to give. And all it is working on certain situations that you're going to get in when you've got the pace that he's got. So then you work on finishing. You work on
you
certain
should be able to work on that, Brady. Like, get a goalkeeper, even a young goalkeeper, at the end of a training session, go 1v1 with that pace, like, go match pace as much as you can.
Yeah.
And like the one there, Ederson, go round him. You've got the pace. Ederson won't be able to catch him. No one can catch him.
You're not going to catch him.
Touch it round him and put it into the empty net. It's just, everything's so quick. You can't really have that calmness in front of goal, isn't it?
I was going to say they had this with Vinny Jr. in Real Madrid, and there was so much criticism for him at the time. They were like, he's so fast, his decision-making is terrible. He's never making the right pass, he's never making the right cross. And it was, well, maybe he's too fast, which is a little bit of what we're saying about Adama Traore as well. And it's how do you help that? But eventually it is working one-on-one. It is doing the muscle memory. I mean, you have to have a coachable player, but there is so much that you can get.
Yeah, but I heard Pochettino when he was, excuse me, when he was at PSG, saying that they're teaching Kylian Mbappe to slow down.
Yeah.
You know, they're teaching him to slow down when you get into those positions, and it can happen. I played with Mark Overmars. I've never played with anything that quick no one that quick, Kels, and he's obviously so quick that he gets himself in a position where he doesn't even look to pass to anyone because you can't get there as quick as him. But like, all he used to practice was that pace running through because he's probably going to go past a lot and then finishing clinically. That's what he should have been doing. He should have been doing that years ago.
I'm getting flashbacks to Forrest Gump, where the crowd just kind of run, Forrest, run. Stop, Forrest.
I put it down to him. Maybe that's why he's looking at him so intently. Because he's got to, at some stage, say to himself, I could have worked on this a long time ago. Could you imagine? Where a player of that calibre...
This is what I was going to ask. And we've all mentioned this, that everywhere he's been, the amount of different voices he will have had, presumably all telling him the same thing. If it's that clear to everyone
the biggest
else,
voice, the most important voice is the own voice in his own head. He's going through, he's the person in that pressurised situation, and the voice in his head is the one, maybe he's giving him the wrong sort of thing. I'm not good at this, I can't do this, I've been here before, I've missed so many chances. And again, probably Wrighty's the right person to ask, is in when you're in that position, you know, it's nearly panic stations. I'm in the position again, I was in this last week, it's Man City. Yeah. It's kind of like you get nervous, don't you? You get anxious. I don't know.
He's got to work on those things because you look at him physically, he's an unbelievable specimen, and he's obviously working on that.
Yeah.
You know, I'd say if you're putting half as much work into what because he'll have been in position so many times. So, you know, it's purely down to him for me.
The only thing I would say on just the final, and I hope that doesn't come back to haunt Man City, that Traore scores at the Cottage, you know, in 6 months' time to knock
he's been
City.
practicing his finish.
You know what I mean?
Do you know, Pep Guardiola said one thing to me after that game.
Yeah. And it changed my whole life.
We don't need that.
But, you know, if he's that player who then does finish all these chances...
We're saying City had that wobble. They come away with the 3 points from the game in terms of the performances. And it's also the case that Arsenal didn't look quite at 100% either against Southampton. And again, they went a goal down in that game.
Well, again, it's a situation where Arsenal know exactly what they need to do this season. They've done it for the last couple of seasons. I think the first season was one where they tested it out and they was very happy that they can compete. Last season, very disappointed they didn't finish it off when they played so well to get to where they got to. And this season, they've started the season knowing that they're not giving anything in respects of margins. They know what it takes. You know, last season, in the second half of the season, Kels, it was like 19 games, 16 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss against Villa, and it was enough for them tonight to not win the league. So I think that they're going out there as poorly as they've played against Southampton, and they're trying to get it done at the moment, especially without someone like Martin Odegaard. You know, you're trying to get it done without someone like Martin Odegaard, but like Southampton came and they made it very difficult, like everybody's going to do. And I think they overcame it again. They overcame it again and beat them. And that's what you've got to do at this stage.
Yeah, just playing through it and making sure they take all 3 points.
Yeah.
And Bukayo Saka is hitting incredible numbers for Arsenal this season.
Well, the thing is that he's somebody that...
Which you have passed on, but I'm just going to let you do them because
no,
there's
Kels,
loads of them.
It's just that he's consistency.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You know, he's constantly being... compared to different players and what they're doing. But, like, his consistency since he's been in the team has been amazing. I think at the moment, out of the top 5 leagues, he's got the most assists. And people do ask about, well, how good is he? How good? I'm not really fussed in that respect, Kels, because on a regular basis for Arsenal, from the time he's been in there to this point, and remember, he's only 23, he's still delivering, like, top performances in respects of creation, and even defensive work and everything what he does for the team. One thing that we were worried about at Arsenal is the amount of games he plays, and hopefully he doesn't break down. But when you look at him, he's doing everything that we all expect him to do, and that's why maybe it's underrated.
So he's created 27 chances, 12 of them big chances, which means that his expected assists at 3.16, so assists that are expected to lead to goals, 3.16, but actually it's led to 7 goals. So it's the quality of the ball that he's putting through as well, and presumably the quality of the finishing at the end of it as well. And you know, you say, well, people will question where does he sit and what's his sort of position in world football. I suppose the other way of looking at that, and maybe a more constructive way to look at that question, is what's next for Bukayo Saka, because every player, as you say, he's only 23, is going to be developing at that stage.
Well, what's next for him is obviously to try and finish off the season, win titles for Arsenal, win Champions Leagues, you know, win medals for England. That's what's next for him. I think what we're seeing in respect to the way he plays, you know, we know he's got a signature move. He'll go on the outside, he'll cut inside, he'll curl it in, but people can't stop that. He'll cut inside, he'll play 1-2s, but people can't stop it. The main thing for him is to keep working on the good things that he does. And then, you know, obviously he's added goals to his games. He's adding more defensive to his game now, because obviously Arsenal being a little bit more defensive, trying to hold on to what they've got to a certain extent. But for him, every aspect of what he's asked to do, he does it. He does it well.
And he is sort of looking, as you say, he'll be working every day on trying to improve it. But where he is right now is so crucial for Arsenal. It's just whether I don't know, maybe those players that he...
It's just this conversation, is he world-class or is he not? And I think the only thing is, he's only 23, so he's got years ahead of him to become world-class, if that's really... When you talk about world-class, you're talking about Ronaldo's, Messi's, Maradona, Pele, you know, players of years
pretty much generational talent.
You know what I mean?
Messi,
but
I
don't think
time,
Saka can be that in the years to come. You know, if as Wrighty said, he picks up trophies, wins the Premier League, you know, wins the World Cup for England, He's world class then because he gets his hands on the silverware.
The way you said it there makes sense because that's what you expect. When you watch the World Cup, that's what you see. You've seen world-class players and Zidane and Saka and all those players. You've seen them and they've won the World Cup. It's the way that people are throwing this about, like, he's not world-class, he's not world-class. It's really, it's just a clickbait kind of conversation. It's so annoying, it is.
Right, we'll leave that one there then.
Time for a break?
As we said it at the beginning, it looks like, you know, the sort of usual contenders are in the mix at the top of the Premier League.